Hey, it's time. This is Dr. Jen. I just wanted to do a little different type of podcast today, a little interlude into a series that Lindsley and I are going to start about how do we read science. I think in today's world, it's really, really important that we know where information is coming from and that we understand some basic principles that are really important when we're interpreting headlines, interpreting all this information that's now available to us so we can more accurately sort through it. So today we're going to discuss principle number one. We're going to keep this short and sweet, is the difference between correlation and causation. And I'm going to give you a few examples that easily separate the two, and then we're going to talk about why it gets so confusing with media headlines, etc., as we go on. So correlation means two things might rise and fall together, but they're unrelated. So, or they're related by a third entity that isn't discussed. So let's take this example of ice cream sales and drownings, right? Oftentimes in a certain time of the year, summer, we see an increase in ice cream sales and we see an increase in drownings. While that is both true, an increase in ice cream sales is not causing the increase in drownings. They're correlated, and most people would probably agree with that. What is the third missing factor? Warm weather or kids being out of school. So there can be multiple other factors that link the two, even though the direction of both of those trends are correlated. Causative factor would be being in the sun gives you a sunburn. We know that the sun causes sunburns. That is causation. And it takes a different level of scientific rigor to prove causation. So for example, a lot of the information and research that we see in the longevity and the wellness space is based on observational data, which is important to use. We just need to make sure that we're interpreting it correctly. So when we look at observational data, it is observing what is happening in a certain area. So for example, you might observe the beach at the summertime, and you will see an increase in ice cream sales and unfortunately, probably an increase in drownings. There are more people at the beach in the summer. The temperatures are higher. There can be a lot of causative factors, even though eating ice cream is not causative of drowning. So we need to apply those same principles when we see these headlines, that this is causing this. That may not be true. And we need to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to actually look at that next step. If that headline is based on observational data, it is likely being misinterpreted as causation instead of correlation. And just how some relationships work, most things that are causative are also correlated. However, not everything that is correlated is causative. So we need to make sure we understand the difference. So this is a really quick episode of It's Time this week, but this is a vitally important piece of information for you guys to all weigh in when you are thinking about changing something based on a headline. So when you see that X causes Y and it's a big headline, go a step deeper, see what the actual science is behind that before you embark in behavior change in those areas. And just educate yourself. And we're going to go through some other principles such as relative risk, actual risk, and things like that as we progress through this series. But this is, I think, one of the most important, because often it is easier to make astonishing, jaw-dropping headlines based on correlation. But when we actually look at the cause, if there is causation, a lot of times that data isn't there. And that is because to determine if X causes Y is a much more complicated research study, a much more delicate research design, and oftentimes more expensive. So once again, when you read the paper tomorrow, when you check your news feed, when you see this announcement on your social media, if they are saying X causes Y, take a deep breath, look a level deeper, and see if that's actually true and if there's data to back that up. And to make sure that people are not misinterpreting correlation as causation. So I hope that's helpful. Just wanted to give you a quick 5 minutes. Linz and I will be back next week with kind of more of our normal It's Time podcast. But I did want to plant this seed when there's so much information available to all of us that we actually start to understand and have a level a higher level of sophistication with what we're reading. So take care, everyone. I wish you all the best, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us here today. If you liked what you heard and you got some tips on how to live better right now and for the long haul, please help us reach more midlife women. Please share and rate and like this show, and we can't wait to continue the dialogue with you on our next episode. Until then, thank you. It's time.